All right. New moon, Leo time. Fires going in lots of places here in the US. And I'm sure there's lots that's burning up in other places around the world. So we're going to come together in a grounding and prayer and start from there. Okay. Nice to see you all. Okay, so closing your eyes, taking some breaths. Feeling yourself arrive, leaving behind anything that doesn't serve in this space. That might act as a distraction. You can just simply place it outside of your body right now, knowing you can return to it at a different time. Finding your breath. And in this new moon time, just giving yourself a bit of quiet. Paying attention to what's alive, what's communicating with you somatically or mentally. What parts of you feel open? What parts feel contracted? Just kind of taking a full assessment of self. Noticing where there is tension or upset or anxiety. And just simply bringing your awareness. Maybe that means between your brows unfurls or your jawline relaxes. Or you bring your hand to your chest if there's anxiety. So just tending to what is here. Feeling the aliveness of this moon in Leo, the lion, the lioness, the Christ consciousness, the heart, the love, the great king, the great priest. And how can we all give ourselves more love, love ourselves more? How can we be emissaries of love in the world? How can we continue to drop the past, to heal, to forgive, to release as ready as needed? And so letting the moon draw itself into your being. Lunar essence meeting lunar essence. And from the heavens, we pray for rains. We pray for the rains to come, for the winds to die down, for the fires to cease, and all the places around the world where animals' survival is being impacted, where plants are being eaten by flames, where people are being evacuated and feel scared or worried about their homes, their possessions, their safety. And so, with this collective space, may we call forth the rains in Colorado, the rains in Northern California, and all the places where they will need to come potentially in the next weeks. Imagining that cool air, that relief to the scorched earth. May all beings be safe. May all beings find sanctuary. And may we continue to care for our earth in small ways, like having gardens, and in big ways, by being aware of what we consume and what we need, what we buy, that does damage the earth. Giving thanks for nature and all of our allies. May we give back to you in the same way that you give to us. Noticing where your breath is now as this prayer goes out into the web of life for the upliftment, for the greatest good of all beings. And so it is. So it is. Taking your time to open your eyes. Welcome, everyone. So I'll just speak from experience, having been through a pretty massive fire 3 years ago here in Ojai, that, just having a moment in your day where you send prayers to the animals, to the plants, to the peoples who are being impacted it's pretty extraordinary to feel. And so if that resonates with you, to just, when you find yourself in a free moment or having the awareness of just, sending rain energies, sending safety energies, it really makes an impact when you're fleeing. There's a major trauma response that gets impacted. And, now that we've been navigating all of this, you can feel it, in your body, what that means. So, a couple announcements. One is that the mail must be working a lot better here in the United States and internationally. So we send a gift to all of you that we ask for you, when you receive the package, to take it and put it off to the side so that we can all open it together during our virtual graduation. So we sent the international packages like 8 weeks ahead of time because they were taking so long before with the essences, and I really wanted to make sure that everyone had them for the graduation. But it seems like they're arriving. I mean, Anna got hers in Germany like 5 days after we shipped it, something so crazy. And I know Laura in the UK was like, what is this? And so I wasn't going to tell any of you for a couple weeks because I figured, well, you don't need to know. It's going to take a while. So for our international ladies, you will receive a package from Raw Elements. And if you could just leave the package unopened, put it on your altar, put it somewhere safe, and we'll all bring it out during our virtual graduation. So our ladies here in the US, it's not going to be shipped till the beginning of September, so you don't have to worry about it. But when you get a package and you go, what is this? Who sent me something? Do I have a secret admirer? What's happening? It's from me, from us. And if you could just put it aside for now, that would be greatly appreciated. The other announcement is that we have, hold on a second. Uh-oh, someone can't get into our Zoom. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can quickly text her the no. Hold on 1 minute. Okay, hopefully that works. So the other thing is we have a Q&A call this Thursday at noon Pacific. So hopefully you all can come. If you can't be there live and you do have questions, please make sure you send an email to connect@Woman Rising Mystery School. Mariana will forward them to me so that make sure that your question is answered, your share is witnessed, whatever it is that wants to be spoken. And then on Friday, we have our first practicum. So we actually would love to have 2 more women join that practicum so that we have 12 women. Last week I said you could sign up for more than 1 call. I know a couple of you have, but if you can come on Friday and it would be your second, although it would be your first one, we'd love to invite you to do that. You're gonna wanna have 2 times. So if it works for you, please go back to that Google Doc and sign up. There's 2 spots left. So that call is at 3 p.m. Pacific time. For that group that has signed up, we will be sending you a specific email with how you're going to log into Zoom. So we'll send that Friday morning, and then we'll go over the directions and the instructions once we're all together. Okay, any questions about any logistical things that I just talked about, or anything before we dive in? Okay, so we are going to start where we left off. So there was no new manual for this week. You'll see that it was just module 10 continued. And we're going to talk about children. So, talking about children could be a whole course in and of itself. And For some of you, this is a topic that's really important because either you have children that are needing support or you work with children. I know, Kate, none of those times work for you. I've been really trying to think of what to do. Oh, Barb, you too? Is that correct? Wait, I saw her here before. Is she here? Okay, well, it'll make it easier if there's two of you because I could just get on a call with the two of you. So, okay, Rachel, Anna. Okay, hold on. I need to write myself a note. Maybe we could do a group. Kate. So wait, Rachel, are you signed up for one already? And Anna, are you signed up for one already? Okay, you're already signed up for one. Rachel, I think you're already signed up for one. So we need women who, like, you cannot do. So Rachel, this is different than the sister circles. Where are you, Rachel? Let's just make sure this is all really clear. There you are dancing. I can't see your face, but I can see your beautiful dancing body.
I'm here.
Okay. So this is different than the sister council calls.
Okay.
So these are practice sessions where you'll be a practitioner. You'll also have time to be a client and you'll have time to be a witness. They're really amazing and important.
I seem to have missed that completely. I don't know how, but
that's fine. No worries. I don't have the sheet. I don't know, maybe Joe or Karuna Ulasita, do you have the sheet in front of you? Wait, is this it? No. I'm just curious. I know this Friday's at 3 p.m., but I don't know. Are they all at 3 p.m.? No, they're not. What?
The next one's at 12 p.m. and then the following one's at 3 p.m.
Okay, so Rachel, for you, the middle one would work the best because that would be 8 p.m. for you. It's full, but maybe somebody can switch. Okay, well, let me just write this down. Hold on. Okay, so Kate and Rachel for sure need times. Anna, you're already signed up. So Barb, I don't know if Barb's still here, but.
Look, Rachel's name's down for the middle one.
Oh, Rachel, you're scheduled for one.
Oh, okay. Okay. I have no idea then.
It's like September, what is it, Joe?
September the 1st. Well, September the 1st.
Okay, September 1st at 12 p.m. And so we will send the details for that call to those specifically coming to the group the day of the call. So all you need to know is that you're signed up September 1st at noon.
Okay, thank you.
8 p.m. Okay, cool. So we need Kate. And so, yeah, if there's anyone else who the times don't work for, please let us know because we can maybe create like a little pod group that I just add on separately. That would be helpful. So yeah, and Kate, I haven't forgotten about you. I've been trying to figure out how to make it work, but we really need a group to make it work. Seta, you can't find the doc in your email. Which email did it come from? It is, Barb is down for the final call. Okay, so we got Barb taking, is Seta on there, Joe? No, okay. Seta, can you write your email in here? Maybe Joe, you can send her the doc. Okay, great. So Seta, maybe if you could do this Friday at 3. Oh, cool. And Denise, if you can do this Friday, great. Maybe we filled up those spots. And then Kate, yeah, if anyone wants to volunteer to sign up for another with Kate and another, that would be helpful so that sister activism, since none of those times worked for Kate. Oh, you're already scheduled for this Friday. Okay. Oh my gosh, comedy. Okay, so we need one more person for this Friday. Thank you, Denise. Oh, okay, so maybe Denise, you can come with Kate. Okay, I'm just gonna write that down. So Claire, that's 11 o'clock at night for you. Is that still would work for you? Okay, so let's put Claire and Seta down for this Friday at 3. So this Friday, the 21st at 3 p.m. Pacific, we're adding Seta and Claire. Woohoo!
Amaya,
Yeah.
I put my name down because you were asking, but I'll take mine off for the sisters to be added.
Oh, well,
I
you
just
already have
didn't
your-
like where you're talking, so I can remove. I put myself as number 11.
Oh
So-
no, keep yourself, and we'll move Claire somewhere else. Claire can go with Kate.
Yeah, that's okay. Whatever works for the
Well, it's
group.
also pretty late for her too. I mean, it's 11 p.m. So
Honestly, I don't mind either way. I just want to get in again. So I'm really easy. Honestly.
So Melinda, why don't you take that spot?
Yeah, take it. Honestly, take it.
Okay.
Okay, so it'll be Melinda and Seta, and then Claire, Kate, and Denise. I'm going to reach out to the 3 of you. Oh, Seta won't make it this Friday.
I can come.
Okay, Claire and Melinda.
Okay.
Okay, so
11 p.m. my time. Cool.
okay, so Seta, Kate, and Denise, I'm going to reach out to you. Okay? Okay, great. So Kate, Seta, and Denise will make a specific time that I'll be with the 3 of you for a call. Great. Yay. Okay. Yay. We did it. Okay. And Diamira, you could come with Kate too if you need another. Perfect. Okay. And Natalia. Okay, great, great, great. Okay. So thank you all. That's really helpful because I know that it's so important. So we'll help Kate and Seta. Okay. But Joe, can you still send it to Seta so she doesn't really need it because I'm going to reach out to her. Okay, thanks. Okay. And wait a minute, Susan, did you find a spot? Because I know you gave one up for Michal. I think you're in Friday. I feel like I remember seeing you.
I think I'm signed up for 2. I thought I was signed up for 2 because originally I signed up for 3 and then I gave one up.
Okay, first of all, I'm so happy to hear your voice. Yeah, I remember you gave one to Michal. I just wanted to make sure. Is she on there, Joe?
Pretty sure I'm on 2 of them.
Okay. Oh, good. Crystal, you're here. Great. Okay. What a funny morning. Okay.
Susan looks like she's in there for Friday.
Just this Friday.
Yeah.
That's it. On any other ones?
And Thursday, September the 3rd.
Okay.
And there is one space free this Friday.
Okay.
Bill?
Yeah. Was I putting Claire's name in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's not a space in it. I think Melinda and Claire would have filled out, right?
Yep.
Okay, so all
didn't put
spaces are
Claire's name.
filled.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, here we go. So, children. So there's a lot to talk about. And, I want to make this, there's a lot that I want to say, and I also want to make this pretty interactive because being able to help a child through different emotional transitions, transits, experiences is not only is it empowering for them in the present moment, but it helps to set them up to be mature, responsible grown-ups in the world, right? And we really need to create a world of mature, self-responsible adults, because it seems like a lot of our issues that we're dealing with are because they're not. You know, it's like sometimes when I'm thinking about the world and the news and politicians and, you know, this whole game that is played out and created, it's like I can see the age, the child age of the person who's quote unquote in charge. And so what we're talking about here is not just the essentialness of having tools to help children, but it's really the long-term impact of how do we create self-responsible and aware beings, because that's really how the world changes. There's so many developmental phases of a child's life, so that's why I kind of want to make this call a bit more fluid, because how you deal with a 4-year-old is different than how you would work with a 14-year-old. And okay, so let's just start from there. So I'm just going to pull up the manual and use it as my guide for talking. Okay, so you know, flower essences in children's work is extraordinary. They don't have the decades of emotional baggage that many of us here come to this course with, or come to the beginning of our own healing journey with. So there's a lot less to kind of have to peel through. Their vibration generally, and I say generally because there are some children who have gone through extraordinary traumas, but generally their vibration is higher because they haven't had years and years to have experienced traumatic, to experience trauma, and also the imprints and the affirmations of that trauma. So we know that flower essences are high vibration, they have high frequency, and so when given with a child, or, you know, with an animal who also doesn't have the same level of mental, emotional disruptions, there's a real quickness. Now, some of you have already seen in and of yourself the quickness that happens, that has happened just in a month or 2 months of working with your practitioner. Just like, whoa, things that maybe you didn't even know were there, or issues you've been working on have been intensified. And so you've already seen a bit of like the quickness of how essences work. So imagine that same swiftness with children who don't have the same rationality, don't have the same coping skills to cover things up and survive. And so it's very quick. Children are very sensitive to their environment. And so when you're working with children, you're not only working with their issues, but the influences in their environment. So this is really important to remember, because children, you know, last week I talked about that process of response versus reaction, right? Response is what children are constantly in. They don't, you know, so let's talk about children like 10 and under, okay? Really, but I really feel like it's 14 and under, depending on the child and the environment. But children, they are very fluid in their emotionality, and they are responding to everything in the world around them. Some of it's interpretation of the world around them. Some of it's making context of the world around them, but they're really in response. And I think about this a lot, actually, you know, raising a child, because I know for me when I was young, I absolutely did not like being told what to do or what food I had to eat or how to behave or how to be, right? Everything was like regulated by some grown up. Like I was like, how do they have the power? How do I get some of that? And so I think about that in raising a child, just how there's some things as parents that we do to keep our children safe. Or if you're a care provider, it's like, oh, there's things like don't run in the street, right? There's things that we do to keep our children safe. And then there's things that are kind of just like arbitrary decisions. Like, I don't want you to have that cookie now. Why? You know, it's just like, they're just like arbitrary things. I think about this a lot. And I think about how kids are, you know, they're kind of, their whole lives are within this frame or this bubble that other people around them are creating for them. Hopefully it's well intentioned, but that doesn't always change the impact of how they feel. So we have to look at the whole unit that's functioning with this child. So if a child's having quote unquote like acting out, we want to look at what's happening in the home, what's happening if they go to school, what's happening in any programs they're in, right? Because things generally, and I've said this before in this program, they generally just don't come out of nowhere. It's a response or a reaction, right? So if a kid who's been potty trained starts to poop in his or her pants when a new baby or new sibling is born, they're responding or reacting to a situation, right? So we want to really understand that there's cause and effect in a child's life. Of course, there's other layers, you know, past life imprints and karmas, and that's all really important to take into consideration. And because children are so in the moment and so fluid, we really want to just take a look at what's happening in their world. So if it's possible, when I work with a young child, so let's say, well, again, this could go, you know, up to the age of 14 or 15. I would like to have the possibility to make a formula for his or her parents or whomever their care providers are, right? So if a family's going through divorce, through separation, if, you know, this pandemic, right? This pandemic has brought up a lot for children that they may or may not have the skills to speak and share. Maybe their parent who's always been at work is now at home, but their parent's an alcoholic. And so if it's possible to work with one or both of the care providers, it's really helpful. I'm going to share a little bit more how I do that. So when you're working with a child and a parent or care provider, it's pretty amazing if you can overlap one or two of the essences. Because, as I said, there's a cause and effect, right? Something that the parent may be doing or experiencing is impacting, but also because flower essences are vibrational and are frequency, we want to like support the family unit to create repair or healing or whatever is necessary, and that the whomever's taking these essences are starting to vibrate within the same frequency. When that happens, there's generally like a turning towards of one another rather than maybe the agitation or the turning away from each other. So let's talk a little bit about different things. Well, actually, before I do that, I want to speak about I want to speak about resiliency and children being resilient. So it's a very kind of common thing. I feel like I've heard it since I was pregnant, you know, just like children are so resilient. Don't worry. They're totally resilient. They won't remember things, or this is, you know, don't worry. So resiliency is both a beautiful attribute, and it's also something that for some people has to get learned. So for example, if we're talking about Black children in the United States right now, there's a learned resiliency. There's a learned way that they have to understand how to navigate in a mostly white world. They have to learn not only how to kind of fit in, but how to be smarter, better, how to know what to say without like disrupting or hurting any white person's feelings or powers or intelligence or any of these things. And so many times Black children are brought up with a level of actually learning how to be resilient in a world that wants to systematically, whether it's conscious or not by us, by the greater world, wanting to suppress them. And that's a really important tool that they have to learn. And I'm sure that this is also translates to people of color, to any people of indigenous descent, like anything that's different than white looking or white presenting, there's a resiliency that has to be learned. And then there's the resiliency that's just inherent in who we are that gives us strength to continue on. Having tools when something traumatic, and remember the definition of trauma is like something that scared the system, something that felt dangerous. When there's tools that are given to a child at those points, resiliency does grow, and it does, it's a beautiful thing, but it's done through a lens of wholeness rather than through a lens of what may happen if I don't learn this. So children are resilient. People are resilient. It's a beautiful way that we adapt and we grow and we change. And I have a sense that sometimes we use resiliency almost as a way that we don't have to deal with or support children. And I find that to be a fault of our society. So when we're talking about children that are younger than 5, if you are able to work with children, it's really such a beautiful thing. Some of you may want to focus specifically on children, or some of you may just find yourself doing that. So when you're working with a child under 5, unless you have some sort of background in child development, psychology, you know, like people who work specifically with children who may have an office where, you know, things are sort of set up for a child to come in and for them to be telling you a story without necessarily telling it in words, you're going to be collecting a lot of information from the parent or care provider. So when I have worked with small children, I've done a combination of things where I've, you know, had a session solo without the child, either on the phone or in person with the parent. Tell me what's happening, right? When did this behavior happen? And one thing I really want to mention here that is important for grown-ups, but it's different because as a grown-up coming to a practitioner, flower essence practitioner, there's again, that's self-responsible. I'm ready to do this inner work on myself. For a child, we want to be really mindful about creating space where children don't feel like there's something wrong with them. You know, when a parent brings a child to a practitioner, there's again that like subconscious interpretation that something's wrong or I'm bad. Again, this is different if your child's older and you're having communications. Maybe even if your child's 12, 13, 14, 15, they might say, hey, I really need support with this. And so there's a conscious decision on their end as well. But for a younger child where you as the guardian or care provider are making choices for them, you do want to be mindful about putting anything on that they're wrong or they're broken. Right? Because really, you as a care provider are just wanting to provide tools so that they don't get stuck in trauma, so that they don't take on this experience and have it imprint into who they are. So when you're working with a young child whose parent has decided for them that this is the step that they wish to take, it's, really nice to get the information from the parent. And then to have a session in person with the parent and the child. And sometimes it's just meeting the child. It's just kind of like being playful. Sometimes I would take my essences out and just kind of let them play around, see what they're drawn to, because there's usually some resonance there, whatever they're drawn to, that maybe I'd want to put into their formula. It's really sweet to watch a child just kind of start to play with some bottles. And of course, you can bring in this conversation of, oh, what's it like to have a new baby in your family? Really just keep it simple. Keep it just like, you're just inquiring and see if you can get anything. Some kids might go into long detail, and some kids, like, my son, I was telling you all last week, he doesn't really like to talk about his emotions. So he might just go, I don't know, or it's okay, or it's fine, or so you want to like just sort of have this knowing that if you're working with a young child, you may or may not gather really tangible intellectual information, but you will from their parent. And just being in person, all of you are highly skilled intuitively, and just watching a child with their parent, watching a child and how they move freely in a new space. That also will provide you some information. When you make a formula for a young child, you don't have to use a lot of essences, 2, maybe 3, 1, it's just they don't have the same, as I said, the same emotional baggage. They don't need as many essences. And we're not even talking about giving you that many, 5 or 6 isn't that many, but young children need even less. And what I've also done, with certain children is, young children, is if they really, let's say they picked up a bottle and they just were like, whoa, what's, Bluebell, or they just felt really inspired. I'll tell the parent and they can either grow Bluebell if it's the time of the year, or just showing them pictures of Bluebell, and that in itself, even when you look at a picture of a flower, you get an activation of something inside of you. And it's just nice for them to have an understanding that this medicine is from a flower, it's from a plant. Kids are generally connected to nature no matter their environment. They may not have access to nature, right? They may live in like an apartment in the city, but there's still that liminal space. 6 and under still is connected into the liminal realms. At age 6, there is a change in the consciousness of a child in that total pretend world. Like right now with my son, what's amazing about this age is I'll like, he has this stuffed unicorn, and I'll be the voice. I'll be the unicorn. And he really, really believes that that unicorn is talking to him, right? So even though like he sees me talking, he's still in that realm of like totally believing that this unicorn is, it's like, can I snuggle with you, Ocean? He's like, sure you can. Or, how, like, just this whole thing. It's this like really phenomenal to get to witness that liminal space. And then things start to change and people begin to lose that. Children lose that. And so while they're there in that 6 and under, there's a lot that you can do with how they connect with the flowers that they're using. Maybe there's a child who's like, I totally see fairies. I know that they exist. I create fairy homes and cottages in my backyard. It's like letting him or her have that space with the essences to connect to the fairies. And so, and there's, even within that, there's emotional trauma repair that's happening. So 5 and under, as I said, you want to kind of look at everything, what the parents' relationship is like. Is the mother working? Is she happy? Is the father emotionally available? Does he work? Is the child angry at only the mother or both the father and the mother? Does the child have friends at school? Is her behavior the same at school? Is there a sibling? Just kind of that real curiosity of what's happening in the world around them. And then the formula that you make will be just a few essences. They can take it internally, and generally you should see a shift in whatever the person came to you for. Behavior, mostly in that age it's behavioral. They're responding, they're reacting through their behavior. So generally you'll see a shift in a child's behavior, I'd say within 4 to 6 days. If you don't see a change, then you can make a new formula, because it really should work pretty quickly. Now, there's just like a little side note that I mentioned before when we were talking about grown-ups, is that, let's say a child is reacting to an abusive home. If the abuse is continuing, doesn't really matter the essence that you give, right? It's just like, it's not going to change a child's behavior because there's still abuse happening. So I want to say that the majority of the time, the people who are going to come to you who are open to flower essences, and the parent who's like, yeah, I'll take flower essences as well, they're going to want to create change in their home. And there are some times where maybe, let's say, a mother or the other mother or the father comes to you, but the other parent isn't willing to make change. That can create a lot of strife. And so, for me, I always, if someone's telling me a story where I'm like, this is going to be really hard to change the familial circumstances, it is really good to have a family or marriage therapist that you can refer someone to, because there's only so much that you can do. If the family unit is able or willing to create the changes to support the child, then the flower essences will work in 4 or 5 days. And if they don't, then you remake it. Maybe you just need something different, or maybe you've gotten a piece of information that you didn't have before that's like, oh, now I can make this formula, it's going to make a change. Children also, giving them protection essences just in and of themselves can often be just radical. Just holding them, right? Children are so open. They're picking up everything. You know, the children right now navigating through a pandemic, it's like, I think about this a lot. You know, I think about what, again, for this, like for younger kids, because it's a little bit different for older kids that you can talk through and process, and what do they think seeing masks? You know, in a way, my son likes it. He's like, oh, I get to put on a mask. And he doesn't have a context in the way that I have a context, right? But there's still a lot happening in their world that is really different from how it was before. And they may or may not have the capacity to speak it, to verbalize it. And so sometimes even just protection essences or the clearing formula can be really helpful to just help them keep their energetic field intact so that they're not just taking on tons of, I mean, there's a lot of fear right now for many reasons. The virus here in the United States, elections, just, of course, Black lives. Like there's a lot going on in the collective for all of us. Children see it all. They feel it all. They may not understand it all. So protection essences could be amazing. With children between the ages of 6 to 12, again, you can work out the sessions really similarly, where you meet with the parent first and then with the child, or you may just meet with the child. It kind of depends on your level of comfort with children, how much you want to be able to gather with the child or without. It can be really helpful, again, depending on what the child is coming to you with, either based on trauma or just their personality. The child may want to be there with their parent if they're seeing you in person, because that may help them to be really safe. Okay, and children over 12 but under 18, there's a way that you will want to form your own relationship with them separate from the parent. And really, there's so much information that you will gather from a child at that age. Again, depending on the children, some children are really forthcoming because they've made the choice saying, I'm having a really hard time. I want to talk to somebody. And some children may have felt forced to be with you. And so that will create a dynamic. And so there's a lot of patience that you want to bring forth when working with a child, a lot of patience and a lot of compassion for understanding the magnitude that they are learning about living in this world. So again, at any age, children may want to be part of the selection process. They may want to run their palm over their bottles. They may want to intuit their essences. They may want to look at flowers in photos, and I just shared kind of all that of like, you're not fixing them. So with keep formula is really simple. So I didn't quite talk about babies. I talked more about, I think, like toddlers and young kids. So I'm going to just wait for babies for 1 second. For children 4 to 11, and really it could be even 2.5 or 3, they can take 3 drops twice a day. Our general dose is 3 drops 3 times a day. This is 3 drops twice a day, and really it could be 2 drops twice a day. It's a small amount. 12 and older take 3 drops 3 times a day. Well, obviously this is written pre-pandemic, so it may be difficult to get the second dose in because the child's at school. Most children will be at home now, so you know, I always tell kids to leave the formula on their night table. They take it when they wake up. Hopefully they take it at some point in the middle of the day and at night. If they're only taking it twice a day, it's fine. You just want to make sure that you're seeing results. So if you're not seeing results, have them make sure to take that third dose. If you're still not seeing results, make a new formula. You know, the key with children, as with grown-ups, is consistency. You know, and children need somebody often, someone else who's responsible for them to help them to be consistent. So it is really important. You know, my first experiences with children and flower essences were with my nephew, who's about to be 15. And so we used essences to induce my sister's labor because she was about 14 days past her due date. And we really used essences on him. I'd say, well, he's still actually, you know, when I saw him last year, he's been going through a really hard time, and he's like, you know, super sweet, sensitive being. And he asked me if he could have some essences, you know, so that felt pretty amazing as a 14-year-old boy. But we've been using them on him. And I remember using them on him a lot when he was 3, maybe 2 to 4. We used him like his little sister was born, his mom worked, he was in daycare. He had kind of like a mouth fetish. Like he always had to be chewing. He would chew like the collars of his shirt. He would always have to have his fingers in his hands. And then he went through a stage of like real anger. And so we used essences all the time. And there were 2 things that he loved about it. He loved, because he had a little sister 2 years younger than him, and his mom is a teacher, so she was gone all, like, you know, most of the day. He loved having that time with his mom, where they would sit down on his bed and take the essence together and just have like a moment to say, like, how are you feeling? And he also loved that act of having his own thing, right? His own formula. And so, you know, it's sort of, I remember this from herb school. My first herbal teacher, Rosemary Gladstar, she said, you know, a cup of chamomile tea is amazing for the nervous system. But the act of actually sitting to drink that cup of chamomile tea makes it even more powerful. And so the same thing with essences is that the formula that you create is going to be potent and going to be so helpful, but it's also the other pieces that happen, right? Like with my nephew sitting with my sister, that was really profound for him. Having his own thing after, you know, because he shared a room with his little sister and she was only 2 years younger, like that was really important for him. So there's lots of pieces that you can weave in when you're working with a child that you'll see healing happen. That's not only from the essences that they're ingesting, but the whole process itself. Okay. So I want to talk about babies. For babies, because they're totally in this like high vibrational bubble of the cosmic realms, and they're still really connected to their mother, and especially if a mother chooses to breastfeed, it's like they're in her auric field. And so with babies, they actually don't have to ingest the essence. You can put a drop on your hands, put your palms on a baby's feet or on their belly. And so things like common baby things can be helped with essences. Jaundice, colic, maybe there was like an emergency cesarean, and kind of the repair of that. Maybe the baby wasn't put with the mother right away, or maybe the baby was in the NICU, or like all of these things are actually really important, because as we've been talking throughout this program, we see that everything that's informing our present moment has happened from the past. So either in utero from this lifetime, or once born, that first year, right? So things that happen that we go, oh, that's normal, right? Oh, like there's a mom who has postpartum depression. It's like, that's totally normal. You don't feel connected to your kid. Like, just wait and see, it'll happen. There's essences for all of those things. We don't have to normalize anything. And it's really powerful to have somebody in a community who knows how to work with babies. Because babies really do go through a lot as they're landing and arriving here. There's a lot of ways that their physical bodies are impacted, and they're just fluid emotionality. There's not like, oh, you've done something wrong to a baby. They're literally responding to everything that's happening. Oh, the light's too bright, I'm going to cry, or I'm hungry, or I need to be changed, or I want to connect, I want someone to hold me, right? It's like such a primal experience. And so working with a baby who's going through anything, it's really helpful. It's really, really helpful. Anything that's traumatic too, you can use, like the arnica essence for clearing trauma. I'm just going to pause for a second and just see if there's any questions or clarifications before I keep going on.
I have a question. I noticed in the manual it says do not use emergency protection blend.
I just sort of skipped over that because it needs to be updated, and so you can just like kind of remove that.
Just ignore that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Natalia. I'm going to take that out. What page was that on? That's page 6.
Amanda.
Yeah, love.
But I don't know if I really have a question. It's very clear on what you're bringing forth, but what's been arising with me as I've been listening and sitting here is that it really prompted me to do a little research about what a flower is made of. Because I was listening to, thinking about the essence and how, you were talking about what prompted that was your comment about having the child have a picture of the flower. They're touching the essences, but actually looking at the flower, and how correlating to that this weekend, I was in this, with some girlfriends, this healing session, and I was under a copper pyramid on a massage table. And I said to the woman who started the treatment, if you don't have that available, you can pull the copper up. And I was talking about copper and all the benefits of copper. And as we're in the session and we're doing this thing and I'm doing my thing, one of the copper legs goes flying off. Whoa. Just like, and we start laughing. And I'm like, yeah, the copper's expanding. Like we've got copper going everywhere. And it just listening to you about the picture and about the vibrational energy that is so charged, I just was looking to see what was out there. And what I noticed, and you probably all know this, but I guess I haven't really taken the time, but it was on the internet, it's talking about the types, there's 4 basic different types of flower whorls. And then I thought, gosh, is that sacred geometry? Are we working with the essence and the vibrational energy is coming from sacred geometry? But no, they're defining it based on the reproductive organs. And there's something really beautiful that is arising with me, that we need to spend a little more time on these reproductive organs between the type of stamen and pistils and how they're organized within the flower, that I think is also helping in this vibrational energy and the creative force of that with reproduction and the energy that is being birthed through that. And then it caused me to just kind of look, and I won't continue to go on because I want you to go back to this beautiful session, but flowers are made elementally of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Those are the basis of all flowers, and we're made of carbon, right? And we use oxygen, so they're really no different. I mean, the hydrogen aspect is kind of interesting. So anyway, I don't know. I just wanted to bring that forth because that's what I've been experiencing as you're talking, and I love the idea. When we're ingesting, so it just was rising up within me. What is the taking in the vibrational energy, but also looking at the picture, you're actually creating this more, getting consciousness, the person's consciousness to look at the physicality. I mean, looking at the picture, we're ingesting it on this vibrational energy. It's very interesting. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm resonating with a lot of things that you're saying.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the word that came to me as you were speaking is like when you were talking about the stamen and the pistil, and it's like it's like you look at a flower and it's creation, right? But the word that kept coming to me is, with the essences specific, is just like this regenerative process, right? That's really what they're doing, is like they're regenerating aspects that have been hurt and aspects of our own essence that we've forgotten. And that's just the word I loved that you brought that up. That was just the word that was like, oh, regeneration. And then of course it is literally they're creating a new generation.
They are creating, and also that the way science is defining it is whirls. I'm thinking of the whirling dervish. I mean, just that energy of whirling, and they call them calyx, corolla, androdrosium, and genoecium. So there's like these 4 main reproductive organ whirls that are in that stamen and the pistil. So we're talking about babies, creation. So
yeah, totally. Yeah. That's why in the recommended reading, I actually have to get a field guide. And, as beautiful as and quick, oh, it's 11:11. As beautiful and quick as these apps are, the beauty of working with a field guide is that they do exactly that. So you get into the frame of that flower world. I love flower guides. They kind of remind me of like the Choose Your Own Adventure books from when I was little, where it would be like, it's like, okay, how many leaves does this flower have? Go to index 10. And then index 10, does it have a stamen? What does the calyx look like? Go to index 12. And so you're really actually understanding the physiology of a plant. With an app, it's quick. You take a picture, you get it, but it's totally different having a field guide and understanding the botany of a plant. I mean, I think botany is something that should be required for all of us. I didn't start learning that till I was in college. I remember my brain just like, oh my gosh, there's a whole world within the plant realms that I never knew about.
Yeah, and I've been using an app recently called Picture This.
Yeah.
Do you have that? Yeah, I love that app. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. And also there's something about that tangibility that you're with, and there is, sacred geometry is totally interwoven. And, that's the beauty with those plant attunements. When you're sitting and you're staring at the inside of the sunflower, that takes you into a lot of alchemical understandings of creation itself, right? That regeneration. So it's all interwoven and powerful to think about. Thanks. Yes, Denise. Oh, can't hear you, love. Can't hear you. Do you have headphones plugged into your phone? I mean, computer? You may need to restart. Sometimes that's like the only way to get it back on.
I'm going to try my phone now.
Oh, there you are. Wait.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I disconnected these. I guess electronics don't mesh with me very well.
Yeah.
I have a question in regards to more of like maybe flower essences for babies. Like my sister just had a baby during this pandemic, and I think it would be, I don't know if you have any special suggestions for that because of the trauma, you know, that like you mentioned, that maybe will help the mother as well as the child. She's now about 4 months, so she literally was born, you know, during this whole time. So I don't know if you can expand on that. So I greatly appreciate it.
How do you feel the baby has been impacted by being born in a pandemic?
More than anything was we didn't get to meet her till she was about 3 months because you know, it had to do with my sister wanting to make sure that we were having to quarantine, and so her being kind of like in a bubble, you know, not having much interaction with people or the outside world, which that could be good or bad.
Right. I was just going to say that. Yeah.
She's a very happy baby, which that's great. But I think it's more so, it's different, you know, it's something that is, it's like we're living in this world that we don't even know.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, more so protecting her for when that shift does happen, when she's reintroduced to whatever it is that, you know, we're going to be able to do once all of this is over, because she's been sheltered for so long.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think you bring up a really good point, and I want to present it to all of us, and then I'll answer your question. Okay. I've been thinking a lot, just because I've been really delving into the, you know, anti-racism, and I've been thinking a lot about our own biases, right? That we really all see the world through our own biases, whether we're conscious of them or not. We see things through our own frames of reference and understanding. So as a practitioner, and I think I mentioned this before when we were talking about holding space, you know, you want to be mindful about what you want to be mindful if you have an agenda, or if you're just literally allowing the process to happen. So when you were talking, you know, and you said that might be good or that might not be, right? It's like we don't really know right now. You know, the best place for a baby to be is at home and with family and being loved and getting all of their needs met. Like that really is the best place. So it could be that that baby has anxiety that's been imposed onto them because, well, obviously, you know, even going to a hospital during a pandemic, I don't know if your sister gave birth in the hospital or.
If I will share just really quickly, and you're kind of, you know, going on the right path. The concern is she was at the hospital, and my sister has shared with me that she shouldn't have brought a baby during this time. And so her regrets, my concern is how is she, you know, continuing to imprint the baby's soul with that? And somehow, obviously I wouldn't just say, hey, give this to the baby. But that's my biggest concern is my sister has a lot of regrets at this point. She's an attorney. So she's working again, you know, and her husband's an attorney. So there's like a lot of moving parts there.
Yeah. Okay. So that seems like maybe the bigger thing than well, obviously the baby's responding to the energetics. So in that case, you know, it would be really helpful if your sister was open to it, to be working on regrets. I'm curious if she, does she feel connected to the baby?
Yes and no. I think it's, you know, she tries. you know, I've thought about having her work actually with maybe even Joe, if she would ever be open to it, because I believe my sister has a lot of, you know, opportunity for her to be able to take on this magic. But I think that her connection is she didn't even want a baby for a long time. You know, like they planned everything. Like they planned it to the point where they went to like overseas to Asia. They like quarantined themselves from having a baby for a year to not get Zika. Like they wanted this baby to be like the specific sign. They had it all planned out. And then she got pregnant during this and had the baby during this. So it's very ironic that all of this happened.
Right.
She didn't really want a baby.
Right. Okay, so that seems like the bigger piece. You know, that's a heavy thing for a being, a baby, to feel, right? So even though it may not be always tangibly felt, because I'm sure the baby's being cared for and loved, there is an energetic that a baby's feeling. And, you know, it's powerful when we talk about this because you all are here because there's things that you felt. There's ways that you didn't feel, you didn't get the love that you wanted or needed, or you felt abandoned, or you felt like your existence was a sacrifice or a compromise. So this it is a really important moment to be aware of for your niece or nephew. Did you say it's a girl or boy?
It's a girl, and I just had a vision, so I'm sorry. You know, it's my sister actually came to pick up my mom about a month ago, and that's how come we got to meet my niece, because she wouldn't let us go visit her. So long story short, she literally was like a 36-hour like visit. And the reason she picked her up was because she kept saying, I feel guilty about my mom not meeting the baby and dying during the pandemic. However, we grew up, you know, with the same parent, and she has a lot of guilt, I think. And now the baby is, my mom's there, you know, and it's ironic because just yesterday my mom called me crying that she wants to come back. And, you know, I've been working with Joe on my mother issues, and I've always been the caregiver. And so I apologize, but I just realized, oh my God, like, it's like she brought my mom to her place in New Mexico from California so she could be there and help raise this baby for who knows how long. But my mom wants to come back, and it's like my mom's trying to pull me, and I'm like, oh my God, like, I hope this cycle is not continuing to just continue. So it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So I apologize, but yeah, just had to share that vision I just got of my sister and my mom and my niece.
Yeah, no apologies needed. It's really important. And when you see that intergenerational patterns and trauma, it's a lot. And you're just like, I want to help that, but it's, where do I do that? How do I do that? So, you know, the first essence I thought of as you spoke about your sister's regret and, you know, all of these is Mariposa Lily, which you all have. Mariposa Lily, you know, I think I spoke about it from the lens of helping it to heal, you know, mother wounding and mother betrayals and all of that. And it's also an extraordinary essence for a mother to learn how to mother. And if there is disconnect or discord between a baby and a mother, Mariposa Lily is really helpful. Like for example, Mariposa Lily can be really helpful if a child is not gaining weight, you know, is maybe nursing or even getting formula, is not gaining weight, because it's like nourishment, it's the mother, you know. So, you know, having them both use Mariposa Lily would be amazing. Maybe even, you know, in like giving your niece, you know, white sage, just again, like holding her feet and just clearing out, or even angelica, And then of course your sister would need a formula, right? She sounds like she's a pretty type A personality. And when you give a type A personality a baby, it's not always the best recipe for just like ease and surrender, right? Because they're like, I need things to be like this, and babies don't operate in that realm. So like all these other pieces of lineage and intergenerational patterns and traumas, it's like I would get to that eventually, but it almost feels like, you know, giving your sister essences so she actually drops into the experience, you know, so we don't want her to regret in 10 years from now how unavailable she was. She's already has regret, you know, about this baby at this time. That's probably a pattern that she runs. So I'm just trying to think of some essences off the top of my head that I would.
Her name is Sage, though. I think that's magical in itself. So
Oh, the baby or your sister?
the baby.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so hummingbird sage or white sage is her go-to. You know, so I'm just going to list out a whole bunch of essences for your sister. Blue vervain for super type A personalities. Mariposa lily for her own mothering, dropping into being a mother. Elm tree for just overwhelm, right? She's like, I'm a lawyer, I've got work to do, but I also have a baby. Who do I prioritize? Elm is amazing. And you don't have it. Oh, you have Mount Shasta wood rose. I'd give some sort of rose. Feels important for her to drop into the heart space, right? She's really in the mind, thinking, overthinking, you know, something for like lemon balm or lavender, just like quieting the mind a little bit, right? And just perhaps just creating like a tiny opening for her to know that there's a different way of being. And then, you know, depending on how she feels from that, if she's like, oh, I feel like a little bit more relaxed, it's like, then I would maybe get into the deeper stuff, but I don't feel like, you know, if she was coming to us saying, I have all this stuff, but she's not. So I would, you know, meet her where she's at and then go to the deeper places. But Mariposa lily would be great for both of them to just connect to one another more deeply, and maybe for, you know, some protection essences for both of them to release, or arnica to release trauma. And then Joe, what's the one from Australia? Is it Boab? Do you want to share with that? Because that's such a good one to bring into this conversation.
Yeah, so the Australian bushflower essences have an essence called Boab, and traditionally the Indigenous women would they would dig a hole when they were ready to birth their babies. They would dig a hole and they would line the hole with the flowers of the Boab tree, and then they would birth their babies into the hole that's filled with the flowers. And so the Boab tree helps to untangle karma, family karma. It's incredible. It's a really powerful essence to give to children, you know, a course of maybe 2 weeks every year of their life. And of course for us as well. So yeah, that's Boab from Australian Bushflower Essences.
And I remember when you were teaching the collective about the Australian essences, you said something about, like, I mean, you'd have to have it and you'd have to have it ready, but sort of on that first feeding to place a drop around the nipple and have the baby drink that to remove karmas. Or maybe it's not the first feeding, maybe it's just some feeding, or.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that piece. Absolutely. And also just once the belly button has healed, popping a couple of drops, and you could do this throughout the throughout the course of childhood, because the belly button is the place in the body that connects to the red thread, the lineage. So this is a really powerful place to be working with essences as well.
Thank you. So the BOAB is something that you can use, like, for example, my kids, right? How you mentioned, because it untangles family karma. 2 weeks per year or so. Okay.
Yeah, I would just douse. I would douse for the child. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super beautiful. I'm gonna take my BOAB out, and I always loved that visual when you spoke about it of, you know, I like the idea of a baby having their first taste being the breast milk if it's possible, but like even just right after that to have the BOAB of, like, part of their entryway is also the clearing of karmas. I love that idea.
Where can we get the BOAB?
I'll pop a link in here for you.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you both. Thank you for all of the great information. I appreciate it.
Yeah. You know, the thing with flower essences, I know I've said it before, but you know, the more you work with them, it's like the amount that you can do with them and the amount that's available is really extraordinary. The creativity that comes through, you know, just even where I'm like, oh, my son, he kind of seems like a little agitated today, or oh, I haven't done a clearing for him in a while. Like, let me just do that while he's asleep. You know, just like little maintenance things that can be so highly supportive, or the BOAB. You know, I loved when Joe taught us that about the BOAB tree. I felt like, oh yes, if I have a way to help my child release family intergenerational karmas, that's amazing. And yeah, Natalia, 2 weeks every year for your child, and to test with the pendulum, like it may be that they need to take it once a day, or maybe they're taking it twice a day. And Christine, I used BOAB when my breast milk came in, since I didn't feel right using right at the beginning with those first colostrum feedings. Right, great, perfect. Yeah, beautiful. There's something else I was going to say about that Mariposa lily. Yeah, like even if a child has jaundice, it's like you can use milk thistle. You know, milk thistle essence is for the liver. And so you can, you know, again, you know, place some on your feet, on the palms of your hand, and place it on their feet or by their head, or maybe a place that they most have jaundice in their body. So there's so many ways that you can work with essences. And, you know, I can't even think of all of them right now. That's why the questions are always so helpful. And also, like, you're gonna try something out. You're gonna figure something out. You know, essences for a woman after she's given birth, especially if it's been highly traumatic physically or emotionally, it's like her ease into mothering will be made that much more greater if she's offered essences. So, okay. There's something, well, I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of these things, and I'll open it back up for some questions. But I wanted to share some children's issues. Again, like, there's so many, I don't know how to put it all into a document. Sometimes I don't remember till someone asks that specific question. I used to, because I was a doula and a childbirth educator and worked a lot with pregnancy and labor and then postpartum, I used to offer induction sessions for clients who were specifically working in hospitals, who were only given certain time frames, you know, and if you don't have your baby in that time frame, then you have to come and be medically induced. And so I used to do medical inductions with flower essences, or not medical, flower essence inductions. It's kind of similar to any other modality that somebody might use, like acupuncture or massage. if it works, it's going to work within the first 12 hours. You know, like you're going to start to feel. And remember that we always really want to let the body do its thing. Like we always, as much as we can, just really let the body do what it needs to. So when I would do these induction sessions, I would kind of wait until the very last moment that we had, because there's some reason that the body's not going into labor. Sometimes it's very emotional. Sometimes a woman's really scared. She's going to hold on to that baby if it's the last thing she's going to do, right? It's like there's fear. Maybe she's been sexually abused, and there's fears that come up through the process, thinking about the process of labor. Maybe she has fears about being in a hospital. Maybe she knows what those fears are, but maybe they're somatic fears that she doesn't know. So, and then sometimes there's physical process, you know, like I've used essences to help turn a baby. Actually, I used essences. My son, when I was pregnant, I mean, I don't really know if this is true, because I had this one midwife that I didn't totally trust, but she told me that the baby was breech, and I was a planned cesarean. So the thought of having a cesarean for me triggered every deep fear in my body. It was not rational. It wasn't like a rational fear, like I don't want to have a cesarean. It was like my body went into an acute trauma response. I had super high anxiety. It was like kind of all I could think about. I was processing my own birth, and I used essences. I would put essences, I would hold essences. I'd put them on the palm of my hand, and I'd hold them right at my pubic bone. And I would just keep inviting him to turn, and just keep inviting him to turn. And I don't know, I don't actually think he was breech. I think he was a little bit transverse, or it's more like across. And there was one night, and I did it religiously because I had so much anxiety about possibly having a cesarean. And there was one night I felt his whole body turn. And so, like, that's miraculous, you know, like you can use them in so many different ways. So I would use them for inductions. And so generally they would work within the first 12 hours. And, you know, if they didn't, there was a reason. Let's see. And then sometimes I'd use them for women in labor. Not often, because it's kind of nice to just let a woman be in labor, but sometimes. If a baby's not gaining weight, as I was just saying with Denise, like 1 drop of Mariposa Lily on their belly or feet a couple times a day. If there's a disconnect between mama and baby, Mariposa Lily. If there's been a surgical birth, baby's disconnected, Arnica for trauma, and Morning Glory, which is from the Flower Essence Society. And it's really amazing for clearing anesthesia. So that's good if anyone's ever having surgery, but specifically if a baby ends up in a cesarean birth, most cesareans are not emergencies. In an emergency, like the mom is knocked out, the baby's lifted out. Generally, it's just like, this is what we're going to do. And there is whatever chemicals are going into the mother will be sent to the baby, unless it's a true emergency and the baby's just like almost like as soon as the chemicals go in, the baby's out. Most often it's not like that. So clearing anesthesia is really good for a baby who's just being born. If parents did drugs during pregnancy or early months, garlic, hummingbird sage, white sage, to help clear that frequency and help them come into their bodies. Jaundice, colic, reflux, these are all essences that you have that are so highly helpful and move things quickly. It's just that you have to have a mama who has all these things, right? So she has to be prepared no matter what. Eczema, banana, which is in our Maui collection, or banana mixed with loofah, which is from Delta Gardens, in a bath or basin quickly heals eczema. Adjustment of a toddler to a new baby, purple water lily, walnut. So purple water lilies when used when, I'll say children, so we're talking about children are acting out to get attention. So purple water lily can be really helpful for shifting that. Walnut tree for just shifting roles, dynamics in family. And then the Avalon pink rose. The Avalon pink rose has such a maternal essence to it that I really find I'm using it a lot when I'm working with clients who are navigating mother issues, whether they want to remother themselves or betrayals within mother-daughter relationships. When becoming a teenager, dealing with more school and social things, the daisies, who am I? Like, that's a huge question, right? Buttercup for self-worth, and Maui Wild Orchid is just phenomenal for what's my intuition and what's my fear. And I think that's so helpful for teenagers who are bombarded with peer group collective reality, saying, what's my intuition here? What's my truth? Adopted children is a whole kind of other conversation. But what I want to say about this is that, you know, when you're working with adopted children, of course you want to work with the issue that's present, but because of the separation from mother, the child moves into the third chakra to overcompensate. There's that auric field that I've been talking about, that a child sits within with their birth mother. They're removed from that. And so they have to learn how to actually begin to pulsate within an entirely different energetic field than they've known up until that point, right? So I'm not talking about the pros and cons of adoption. I'm talking about the manifestations that come on an energetic level from a child moving out of the field of mother that they know and being moved into a field that they don't know. There's a huge catch up, and there's a huge process that a child has to go to. You know, the soul doesn't have the coding for the world that they've been adopted into. And so again, that's not good or bad, it just is. And so arnica for helping with trauma, or elm tree for any overwhelm that a child is feeling as they're adjusting to a new place. Red cedar for safety. And of course, always protection essences are always, always, always helpful. Okay, Denise, can the anesthesia live in our bodies? That's a good question. I would say it depends on your personal health. So for example, like people who have the MTHFR gene mutation, whose pathways of detoxification are compromised, there could still be some subtle energetics of anesthesia that are still in the body. If a person's healthy and takes good care of themselves, I would hope that the anesthesia would move out. But remember that I think the question is important because there's energetic blueprint imprints that are within medicine. And so we do want to make sure it's moved out. I mean, morning glory, it's not going to hurt you to try it, it's not. And I lived on morning glory in my 20s because I was so in the ethers, and it was almost like I was on anesthesia. It was just and I was born a planned cesarean. So there's a possibility that imprint is what was later impacting me in my life. Morning glory is also really helpful for adjusting to the rhythms of life, like morning and daytime. And, you know, when you have someone who's kind of out of their body, like I was in my 20s, I would just like go to sleep super late and sleep all day and super tired. And so it can also help with arrival here. Okay. Megan, I would love to know how to support newly pregnant mamas for their first time pregnancies. So again, just want to speak that if everything's going well, there's kind of nothing to do. We don't want to intrude on a process that's actually really natural and beautiful, and our body's innate intelligence knows what to do. It's when there's issues or challenges that want to be supported. So for me, like in my pregnancy, I was so sick those first 3 months. Like it was, I just thought, if this is never going to end, I don't know how I can do this. And one day after, you know, really feeling like I was suffering for 2 months, I was like, oh my gosh, flower essences. How can I use them? And what I realized is that in the beginning of pregnancy, when you're pregnant, and again, this is different for every woman, but I felt like some of my severe nausea was my body having to expand on an energetic level because I was carrying a frequency that was much higher than my own frequency. It's like, oh, of course I'm going to be nauseous. It's like almost not an energetic match. You know, it had never really dawned on me in that way that there's a whole other vibration that's now in my body that's super high. And so when I began working with essences that I would just say are like more high vibration, right? Like I'd say, you know, some of our Avalon collection essences or our shamanic collection essences or our moon collection, they like exist in different vibrations and frequencies. When I started taking that, I started noticing I'd have like little moments of not feeling as nauseous. And it was such a relief. So it's hard for me to say, Megan, like if there's specific emotions that they're processing through or specific physical, but if they're fine, then we want to just kind of leave it as is and let them have the experience. There's different practitioners who speak differently about how to work with essences during pregnancy. I think some of it's to be a little bit wary and protective that practitioners don't kind of want to do anything that may potentially harm a pregnancy or be responsible for anything. This is my personal opinion, is I actually think flower essences are really safe for pregnancy when used well and wisely. I also don't think they're always needed or necessary, but a lot of times, especially with, well, I'll say especially with a first child, there's a lot of emotions that get brought up that might be part of your own upbringing, your own mother. And so there are some women who really want to work on some aspects of this during pregnancy. And I think that's amazing. You want to be really careful about the essences that you're working with. So for example, I don't use essences that are releasing. So even though somebody's like, I want to dig into it, you know, a woman's building. That's all she's doing in pregnancy. She's building, 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 building. Everything's getting bigger and building, right? The blood's doubling, the cells, the placenta, the amniotic sac, the fingers, toes, ears, eyes, eyelashes. Well, they don't come in yet, actually. But, you know, everything's building. And so we don't want to give essences like milk thistle, stinging nettle, you know, these essences that are releasing. That doesn't mean that, you know, you may give a woman angelica and yarrow for protection. She may still have releasing emotionally, but the actions of the essences aren't releasing in and of themselves. So you want to be mindful about how you're working with a pregnant woman. That's my experience. I feel good working with pregnant women. Some flower essence practitioners don't. They don't want to be part of a possibility of something happening. So Megan, if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was just how to emotionally support the new moms. I know they're having a really hard time transitioning from being like maiden, like not necessarily prepared, not necessarily rooted in their womanhood. And so to be like shifting towards like mom has been, I don't know. I was just wondering if there was emotional nourishment that could be provided from flower essences on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's just, you know, seeing what's present for each specific woman and helping. And I think, yeah, I think most women go through that, like a loss, right? It's like, especially when it's your first child, because you don't know what you're gaining. You just know the things you're losing. And so absolutely, you know, seeing what's present for them and working with them. Yeah. And what they or you as a practitioner is comfortable with using essences. Michal, for a child that's airy and the field is so open, yeah, you can get protection essences every day. So I would test. So just as I was sort of telling you all to test for your own self when you got the protection essences, test for your son or a child. I'm assuming you're speaking about your son, but maybe you're not. But I would just basically, you know, ask to be connected to his higher self and test those essences. And he probably has one that will be a really great ally that you could give, you know, 2 drops twice a day for him. And, you know, the other thing is like when a child gets to, and it just really depends on the child, but, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, these are the times that you also want to be teaching your children some energetic cleansing and hygiene practices. And so that that's just part of their awareness. Right now your son's little, he doesn't have that awareness. But yeah, testing for essences would be amazing, and just giving him a formula of just 1 or 2 essences.
Thanks. Can I share something very quick?
Sure.
So he had a rough night a few days ago, and he hates taking medicine. Like, it's really, I have to, like, really, you know, any kind of medicine. And I just wanted to give him like a protection cleansing. I think it was yarrow that came up, and I gave him like to really gather himself. And I just came with a dropper, and he was like, just never
little
happened
bird.
with any other kind of medicine. He was so like happy. Yeah, I'm just gonna take it in. It was beautiful.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love that. Yeah, little baby birds. Just, yeah. My son, he loves having his essences. Just, I think he really likes the taste of alcohol, so that helps. But, you know, it's something special. It's his. Like when he sees me take mine, he says, "Can I have mine?" I said, "Oh," sometimes I say, "Well, you don't have one right now. We can make one." So I love that. Thank you. Dear Mira, with the induction session, if there are fears present, either about labor or being in the hospital, what essences would support? Yeah, so thanks for circling back. I feel like I didn't totally complete that. So with the induction sessions, I actually use my pendulum. So with those specific sessions, I treat them really different than how I treat an in-person session where, you know, with in-person, I'm taking in the information. I go, okay, this is the formula. With the induction session, I like to just totally be, I'm not part of it. It's really, I want to connect with that incoming baby, because maybe it's something with the baby, but also the mother's spirit. And so I'll ask to be connected, you know, again, just like I was saying with Michal, like the higher self of the mom's name and the baby that she's pregnant with. And then I'll go through the boxes of essences to choose. And then what I will do, generally how I've always done it, is I will put some on the palms of my hand and hold her head for a certain amount of time till I feel a shift, and then hold her ankles till a certain time till I feel a shift. And then I would also always ask if there was a remedy to give her to take home. Sometimes in the induction sessions, it would just be like, okay, we're complete. That was the session. We'll wait and see what's going to happen in the next 12 to 24 hours. But a lot of times I would give an essence and the mama would place a couple drops in her palm, and every hour or 2 hours, she holds her belly. And it works in a couple ways. One is those essences are there to continue our process to hopefully induce labor, but just her connecting, her taking a minute every hour or 2 hours to hold her belly, her womb, to connect with her baby, to connect with her own body. There's power to that, and there's a sinking in. So I don't have a one size fits all for the induction session. It's because it kind of can't be, because everyone brings something really different to what's happening. If someone doesn't want to take it or prescribe it during, yeah, they can hold it, sure. Or you can even make them a spray. You know, that's a beautiful thing that you can also give to children. Children love having sprays. You know, I think I think I mentioned at one point, maybe it was last week, that I had worked with an autistic child at some point, of, you know, on the very severe end of a spectrum. And you know, I don't really always love diagnostic titles. But she could not take the alcohol. She would focus and obsess about that. And then we switched to the vinegar, and that was, you know, she would obsess about that. And so we ended up just making her sprays, and she loved it. And she actually, because she was such a high vibration being, those sprays really, really helped. So, you know, you can make sprays for, I think I made a spray for myself for during labor that I actually never ended up using. But I think I had made a spray with, you know, some of the roses, and I don't even remember at this point. But, you know, you can make a spray for during labor. You can make a spray for helping the baby come into their body after they're born, or helping the mom, or for a child that you're working with. Or, you know, sprays are really beautiful, and you can use flower essences and essential oils to, you know, that are both going to be intentional and medicinal, and why those essential oils are placed in there as well. Okay, let me just make sure. Oh, Natalia, I didn't see your question. How can we support mothers who have postpartum depression? Yeah. So firstly, you want to make sure that women have formulas before they have a child, so that if they start to get a little anxious, start to get depressed, that they actually can start to take it right away. That's the ideal. That's the ideal situation, not wait till somebody's in a deep, dark spiral and can't even ask for help, right? We don't really want to wait to that point. what I found being a doula is that more often than not, it was postpartum anxiety that was harder than, or more rampant than even postpartum depression, especially with your first child. Is the baby getting enough? Is the baby sleeping enough? Am I eating enough? Just so many questions. And oh my gosh, I can't even communicate with this baby. And I'm just meeting this being for the first time. And it's just anxiety. So there's a lot of essences. And I used to either, especially if a woman had anxiety or depression in their background or history, I would try, if I was their doula, to give them formulas beforehand so that we wouldn't get to that place. But sometimes it happens, right? We don't know what's going to happen. So I used to make this amazing postpartum formula, and I feel like I'm not going to remember everything that was in it, but it was like red chestnut from the Bach remedies. Red chestnuts for, and we have horse chestnut, which can help, but red chestnut it's just like that over worry, that over concern. Like, there's just a normal worry that you have as a new parent or as a second parent or a third parent, because then you're worrying about your other children. And then there's over worry. So red chestnut, or you can even look to use your horse chestnut in your treat set. Borage for courage, for upliftment. You could even put in star jasmine, depending on what's going on for the person. Lemon balm to help the mind calm down, or lavender. Elm for sure. Elm's just like, I'm overwhelmed. I don't even know what to do first. I haven't even brushed my teeth in 4 days. How has that happened? Right? So I think it was like elm, borage, red chestnut, and I think a rose. I think roses are always just so good to put in there. The Avalon white rose, or the Avalon red rose, or the Avalon pink rose. And just let them have that. Just like, this is what I wanted to say before when Joe was talking about the BOAB, and I was saying there's so many ways to use essences. I would try to give clients the postpartum formula, but also a Mariposa lily watermelon is an amazing essence to have, which I hope we have soon. We've got a watermelon that's just about to flower, so I can make the essence. Watermelon's an amazing essence for both helping someone hold a pregnancy, especially women who have had repeated miscarriages. It can help a woman hold a pregnancy, and you actually take it throughout your whole pregnancy. But it's also amazing as a preventative for mastitis. So, which you want to have because it's so painful. So just if you have a friend, a client who's about to have a baby, it's like giving her these things so she already has them. Because once a woman has mastitis, it's like, it doesn't matter. It's like too late with the watermelon. Watermelon helps to prevent mastitis. And of course, there's, so many amazing herbal tinctures and products that are also incredibly helpful. For one of my favorite tinctures that I used to take was from Wish Gardens. It was called Happy Ducks, DUCTS, Happy Ducks, not ducks like quack quack. And that always really, really helped me. So, it's just kind of like giving a pregnant mama a bundle of things so she has it is really helpful. Even putting that BOAB in there for the baby, and of course then there's things we just don't know that are going to happen, right? So a woman who's planning an unmedicated birth who ends up in a cesarean, and okay, let's give her that morning glory. Or a woman who's like, I thought I'd be so connected to my child and I don't feel anything. Mariposa lily. So there's things that we can prepare for and things that we don't necessarily know that are going to happen. Yeah, pumpkin essence, Claire's asking, I haven't used it for holding a pregnancy, but what it has been used for, and this is also in that Guru Das book, if you've been able to get it, which is the channel book, is for helping conception, specifically for men and their sperm count. Just like pumpkin seed is really good for like the prostate, and so pumpkin essence can be really helpful for conception, especially if it's within the man, but it can really help, again, if both partners are taking the pumpkin essence together to create that dynamic, energetic together, just like we were talking about with children, for the whole family to take. If conception wants to be conscious, and or if conception has been challenging, for a couple to be taking essences together. And this doesn't just have to be hetero couples. This can be couples who are doing IVF or even surrogacy, because it's like you want to get into the vibration of conception. Do you have another question, Claire? Or yeah.
I wondered about with babies that have gone through IVF treatment to be born, I guess. If that is a completely kind of completely different energetic to just the natural conception. My sister, we have a little baby Saxon now. He was born 2 months ago, and he was born through IVF, and she's very young. So the trauma in itself was why she had to go through IVF was traumatic for her to deal with. The first IVF didn't work, and now we have Saxon, who's just gorgeous. But I just wondered if that would have a profound effect on him, for example, with or if it doesn't at all.
Yeah, it's such a good question. I don't know. I mean, I just have to say, like, I think every part of what creates a being is important, right? So trauma in the DNA that is held, that gets released by the sperm, or IVF, or, everything is part of what literally is the building blocks of what's creating this being. So, and I think that as birth becomes more and more medicalized, it's something really interesting to track and to process. There's an incredible obstetrician, I think he's still alive, he's definitely elder, Michel Audant. He's a French obstetrician and has been a really huge advocate for women's reproductive rights. And I remember hearing him speak a long time ago, and he said that he was creating a study to track babies who were born using Pitocin, because Pitocin is the artificial oxytocin, so that, and they don't get that surge of hormonal flow from mother to baby of connection. And so he was creating this study where he was going to track these babies through and into adulthood to see if they had issues with relating and connection, if there was a relationship with this. And so I think part of the medicalization of birth in this day and age is a little bit of, it's new-ish, and we have to kind of watch and witness. And so I'd say anything that happens, of course, impacts, but I don't know exactly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so there's a lot of questions. We have a Q&A call, so I'm gonna wait for some of those questions. If you can be there, we can totally continue this conversation of children. There's so much more that I feel like I could share about children. Just so many little things I've tried or tested or done. And so, you know, we can absolutely continue, and we can talk about other things in the Q&A call. So if you can make it, that'd be great. And if you can't, just send an email. You'll see the last page of this manual. I don't really need to go through it verbally, but you'll just see that there's more counseling questions. So these can just be added into the document that I had given to you. And they're just more, you know, more just curiosity threads of questions that you can ask somebody, right? And so you can look over that, or you can print it out and have it with you. They're just more prompts for you if you need them. You may find, you know, your natural curiosity just totally takes you in a session and you don't need any support. And if you do, and you go, I feel a little stuck, or I spaced out for a minute and I don't know what to do, you can look at this document and get some more questions. Okay, ladies, thanks for staying longer, and thanks for all your questions. And I know this conversation stirs up things for your own childhood, and then if you work with children or you are a parent, so just, yeah, stay connected to that. So with the ladies who are remaining here, I know a lot of women have had to go because we went longer. Wondering who would like to close our call for the day. Denise, way to go, you're ready. I'm gonna unmute myself.
Can you hear me? Okay. So if everybody would like to please close your eyes and take a couple of deep breaths, cleansing breaths in with your nose. Count to 4 and exhale out with your mouth. Take one more. I'd like to invite all of you to join me into this beautiful garden where far away you see a shimmering light. You begin to walk towards that beautiful shimmering light as you see the flowers and you hear the birds and the bees buzzing, and you smell the flower essences around you. As you get closer, you see this beautiful light begin to get more intense. And when you look, it's Mother Mary. She had been waiting for you to come today after today's beautiful session with Amaya and all of our light keepers. And she extends her hand, and you put your hand on top of hers. She then takes her hand onto your heart, and she begins to talk to you and tell you how beautiful you are and how she had been waiting for you and that she has a gift. You smile and you take on her essence as well. And you can feel the love that is emitted from her heart, from her soul, onto yours. And she says, dear child, the gift I have for you is already inside of you. I want you to always remember it lives in your heart. It's the love that I have had for many, many, many years. And it's the love that I leave with you. The love that you can always feel, and all you have to do is see all the beauty that surrounds you. For all that beauty is only a representation of who you truly are. Don't ever forget that. And she lets you know that whenever it is that you need to call upon her, because you need comfort, you need love, all you have to do is, again, visit that beautiful garden that you're at right now. She leaves you with her essence, and she wants you to know that she will forever be your comforting mother. You say goodbye, but you will return again. And you can always speak to her whenever it is that you need her guidance. She reminds you that you are a sacred divine being, and you are love. You have come from love, and you emit love in all you do. Take a couple of deep breaths, and as you continue your path back through that beautiful garden, allow yourself to return to self and enjoy the rest of your beautiful day, remembering what once was and what will continue to be, which is always love. Take a couple of deep breaths. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, ladies, see you Thursday. Some of you get to see Thursday and Friday, and have a great rest of your day. So much love.